5 academic words for IELTS. Hi there, my name is Ben Worthington, and we're going to look at 5 words you can use in your IELTS writing task 2. And fortunately for you, these are collocations. And collocations are fantastic because they help you sound like a native speaker or writer in this case. Also, we're going to use them in examples using like academic essays or academic paragraphs, and we're also going to use these collocations to answer recent IELTS Task 2 questions, or just to show you how you could have used them to answer, or how you could have incorporated them into your answer for your IELTS Writing Task 2. So let's start with the first one, Seismic Shift. I like this one. It's a strong collocation, and it's quite descriptive as well, and it means a big change, massive, fundamental change, like the internet was a seismic shift. In one example, I've just written the phrase here, the one in white, it's the government's attitude to immigration has undergone a seismic shift in recent years, most likely as a result of the perceived job insecurity of the electorate. So here, I like this sentence, and I'm not praising myself, okay? It might seem like I'm praising myself, oh, you're so good, Ben. But what I'm actually doing is I just want to highlight why this is a good sentence. Not only have we used less frequent vocabulary, such as undergone, which is like has happened, basically, but it's a little bit more sophisticated, but we've also got topic-specific vocabulary in here, which is job insecurity. That's another collocation you can use when we're talking about employment. And electorate as well. This is like upper level, and if you want to get a band 7 or above, you need to be using this type of vocabulary and constructing sentences, coherent sentences, ideally with these academic collocations that I'm sharing with you. So, some recent questions that have appeared on exams. Some people think that robots are important for humans' future development. Others think that robots have negative effects on society. Discuss both views and give your opinion. Now, interestingly, we're only going to use seismic shift once in our essay. Don't keep on using it and sticking it in every paragraph. Just use it once. So in this case, we could say, undoubtedly, robots and technology in general have had a seismic shift on society, or have brought about a seismic shift in society nowadays. It's quite simple, I think, to be honest. Okay, this is why I like this one a lot, because we can use it in context. Once we get to grips with it, i.e., once we master it, it is quite flexible. But we do have to use it in the right context. Next question. Houses should be built in the same style as older houses in the local areas. Others disagree. Simple as. If we can just simplify it, it makes my task much easier. So we could just say, this one might be a little bit trickier to use seismic shift. We could say that there's been a seismic shift in tastes and architecture in recent years, but that's a good example of me forcing that collocation into the sentence, because it's not really appropriate. So I wouldn't use it. I'd have to think of a different one. Next one. Some people spend a lot of money attending cultural or sports events. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Now here, I could possibly say this. I could possibly use this, because the example I would talk about globalization and how the winners have the winners are increasingly gaining more and more money, and this is a seismic shift for sports stars over the last 30 years. Okay, and anybody who knows anything about history will know that sport 40 years ago, the earning potential or the earning power of sports stars 30, 40 years ago nothing compared to nowadays. So there has been a seismic shift. And here, if I fashioned the sentence correctly, there wouldn't be an issue with using a seismic shift in this context. Let's move on. Coupled with, this is more versatile. And this is where we can say we're using two arguments at the same time. Job insecurity coupled with increasing prices on a national scale has caused widespread concern among the politicians in London. So it's like, and in this case, job security and increasing prices. But what we're doing is we're combining these arguments by using coupled with. And also pay attention, we've got to use the preposition with afterwards. So, job insecurity coupled with increasing prices on a national scale has caused widespread concern. Widespread concern, that's the lovely phrase we can incorporate into our academic writing. Once again, widespread concern. It's similar to what I was using before as undergone. You know, these kind of phrases, this is what we're aiming for when we're writing our essays. So, some people think that robots are important for humans' future development. Easy. Paragraph 1, I'd say, the rise of technology coupled with the increasing importance of technology has definitely is definitely cause for concern among many leaders, politicians, and society in general. Okay, so coupled with, it's a good way of saying and or both, but use it in context, and also make sure you're using it grammatically correct. One tip to make sure you are using it grammatically correct is to write out about 10, 20 sentences using this phrase and get feedback on those sentences. And then you realize you basically quickly get mastery over this useful phrase. And do the same with seismic shift. If you're feeling ambitious, combine them both. Next one. Some people think that new houses should be built in the same style as older houses. Okay, so let's see. So, I don't know. Increasing technology, increasing building technology, coupled with rising environmental concerns, is a strong argument to not build houses in the same fashion as they were previously built. Okay, so once again, I'm stretching it a little bit, but it's not impossible. Okay, next one. Some people spend a lot of money attending cultural sports events. Is it a good thing or a bad thing? Let's see, coupled with. I probably wouldn't include it here because it's only kind of one issue. Okay, cultural and sporting events. So I wouldn't use it here. I wouldn't force it. It's not coming naturally. And that's another good tip as well. Usually the first word that pops into your head when you're searching for the word is the right one, and stick with that one. If you can find an opportunity to upgrade it, and you know and you're certain that it is the right one, and it is correctly used, then do it. But especially if you're in the exam, it's usually better not to risk it. So, to that end, it's similar to in order to or so. Pollution as a consequence of economic growth has long been considered inevitable. To that end, a lot of governments have shunned considering alternatives. Shunned. What does shunned mean? Shunned means turn their back on. They didn't want to consider these alternatives. To that end. Okay, this is useful and it's quite versatile as well. So, some people think that robots are important for humans' future. So, paragraph 1, I'm going to talk about the importance of robots for humans' future. And I'd say, undoubtedly, robots and technology in general have become increasingly important for our future. To that end, people have often considered the over-reliance. To that end, regulations have been considered. I'd need to get the whole paragraph together first before actually using to that end. Okay, so likewise, once again, don't force it if it's not coming immediately. Let's move on to the next one. Some people think that new houses should be built in the same style as older houses in the local area. So here for this question, some people think new houses should be built. We could say in body paragraph 1, we could say the houses should be built in the same style. Should be built in the same style. Actually, in order to would be still better. So I'm not going to force it. I was going to say in order to maintain the value, but I think I'd just say to that end to maintain the value. No, I'm going to stick with in order to. That's all. Yeah. So likewise, write out 20 sentences, experiment with it, get some feedback, and that's the best way you know. We'll move on to the next one. I'm not going to do it for the sports events. Another important thing to remember. Now, I would use fact if you can. And the reason why is because thing doesn't sound very academic. For example, there are many things to consider. There are many factors, there are many components. And also, if we're using thing, there's probably a more accurate word we can use, like issue or aspects. There's usually a better word than thing. So, anyway, how do we use this? It's quite obvious, I think. It's like an additional point, which is useful when you're constructing your paragraphs. So, however, another important fact to remember is that politicians are more likely to get re-elected for economic performance than environmental protection. Now, there's 3 reasons why I like this sentence. The first one is, once again, we're using topic-specific vocabulary, assuming this is about politics, this essay, but we're also using collocations. Okay, so we've used re-elected, we've used economic performance and environmental protection, but we've also introduced an advanced writing technique called parallelism, which I'll go into in another video, but basically it's like economic performance than environmental protection. We didn't say are more likely to get re-elected for economic performance and the environment. It's grammatically okay, but it's not as smooth, and it doesn't have as much style as balancing it with economic performance, environmental protection. Okay, I'll go into it in more detail in another video. So, and this is quite versatile to implement into your essay because we can use it if we've used furthermore or in addition to. Okay, but just remember, if you are going to use fact, try and make sure it is a fact. Okay, perhaps a less risky version would be another aspect to remember, because if it is fact, it has to be if you're using fact, it has to be a fact, obviously. Okay, so I think we don't need to go into detail with these, it's quite obvious. Another important fact to remember is that these robots cost money and the ROI has to be interesting, etc. Okay, it's additional points. Detrimental effect. I like this one. I like this one because we can use it instead of saying something like bad, which is rather basic. So it's detrimental effect, negative consequences. So in the example I give, Brexit will undoubtedly have a detrimental effect on the national economy. Furthermore, the impending implications are still entirely unknowable. Okay, detrimental effect. So if you can say that if you're reviewing your essay and you see a word like a basic word like bad, try and substitute it for something like detrimental effect. Okay, so maybe you've written the effects of the environment, the effects of global warming are very bad for society. That can easily be upgraded to the effects of global warming have numerous detrimental effects on society nowadays. Okay, so these are just 5 ways on how you can improve your language and how you can incorporate academic words into your essay. Okay, my name is Ben Worthington. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment if you want any specific videos made, and I'll try and do my best to produce that specific video. If you need any more help with your IELTS preparation, then you can go to IELTSPodcast.com, and we can get some IELTS materials and lots more assistance with your IELTS preparation. Okay, all the best and good luck, and thank you for watching.